In November 2015, at Videofag Gallery in Toronto, Ontario, Heather Bain and Ken Moffatt collaborated on the art show Arturo Vega, Nothing is True, Everything is Permitted.
I met this guy Flavio in New York in 2011. Said you should interview my friend Arturo because he designed the Ramones t-shirt. That's all I needed to hear. So Arturo he was the person who I think kind of did all the design work for the Ramones. Most known for his t-shirts, but he did everything. He dressed them. He told us how he used to dress them for the shows. He created looks for them. He did the stage sets.
Lighting,
merchandise.
merch, yeah. All the background work behind the Ramones.
Plus, he kind of lived with them. He went to every concert they ever performed, except for 2. He sold more t-shirts than they sold records, of course. Yeah. I said, let's try something at Videofag, and then I think Heather said, let's invite other artists in.
Yeah. Like the artists that I was working more closely with, I just asked them to read the transcripts. We created a group where folks could see the photos and the video as well. It was up to them what they looked at. It was totally up to them what they focused on, what they picked up on.
I think the other thing, towards the end, Arturo was really interested in text-based art. So I love the idea that the interview ended on the wall because he was very much interested in text-based art. And the artists that I worked or talked to more closely, it was similar. They could do whatever they wanted, and in each case they researched Arturo online as well, looked for his images, he saw what they could borrow the way Arturo borrowed, and did text. And then the video, again, kind of just pulled the whole show together for me, because you actually see Arturo showing his original work, and then you see the play off his work in the room. So this video is a video of the actual interview or being present in the studio. To me, it's an important aspect of the show that there's a bit of history here, it documents a time and it documents him.
Part of it too is Arturo was really excited to show us stuff too, right? He really enjoyed that piece of people coming in and wanting to know more about him and him getting to show off his collection. So
it was really a nice moment because his life as an artist was kind of, I think he characterizes that, was coming back a little bit at that time.
Definitely.
So he was really alive as an artist when we interviewed him. The imagery here is actually image that we took. Even if there's images of photos, we took these photos in Arturo's studio. Content here, he talks about his time when he first met the Ramones. He talks about what it was like to live in the village, how very rough it was when he first came there, different musicians and artists in the scene.
Yeah, totally. Well, he talks a lot about his personal life as well, before the Ramones and growing up in Mexico and being an artist, being a theater performer, and how he got into theater, and then how he came from Mexico through San Francisco over to New York, when he was supposed to be going to Paris, but he talks a lot about how he just had this kind of instinct that was guiding him through life, right? He was just kind of letting something kind of lead him, really. And so he was supposed to be going to Paris, but instead came to New York because people kept saying, come to New York, and then walking down the street, just crying, trying to find an apartment, not being able to find anything, and just there being a ton of kind of mayhem around him, and then seeing an apartment for sale and just having the instinct to walk in and say, is this place for rent? Can I afford this? And then getting in there, and then that being where he met Dee Dee, and a significant part of his life changed.
So there's an image up here, a catalog from an art show, and that's an example. He talks about that he saw that in bodegas in the neighborhood, and he took the image from the bodega, and then he created his own image based on that.
Daryl and Ken's piece is a great example of that, right? Where they're taking images that he's already reappropriated, and they're reappropriating them, right? By taking his text and slotting them into images that Arturo made. There's just these constant layers and this constant, I would would say, kind of queering of work as well, right? Because the
Yeah.
majority of the artists in this piece are queer, trans. I was originally thinking that I would just literally replicate the Gabba Gabba Hey poster as a very traditional, small-sized, small-scale quilt. It's one of the most recognizable kind of pieces. It's something that's really personal and clearly something of great value to Arturo in his home as well. It was a really personal piece, even though it's also a very public thing, because this particular poster that he had was also signed by all of the Ramones, right? So, and then I thought, actually, the piece itself and I think the show would be way more fun if I had a lot of people involved. So the textile piece ended up being 17 different artists who worked on it. One of the squares is 2 artists. When communicating with the artists who worked on the textile piece, when sending them the transcripts, I told them I was really super clear that this wasn't supposed to be just a show that only celebrated Arturo, that I wanted to make sure that if they were looking at something, if they were reading something, that they could be critical of it, that they could challenge what he was saying, that they could totally react to what he was saying. So the idea behind this isn't just to say, oh, Arturo's really cool, the Ramones are really cool. It was about responding to some of the stuff that he was saying, because some of it, other artists draw from, is a little off. I had a really cool representation of folks on the piece, right? That was really important to me, that it wasn't going to be the same voice over and over and over again across every piece. I wanted to make sure that there were a ton of different stories coming through in this.
These collaborative prints are done by Daryl Volcott and I. Daryl went online, did extensive research about images that Arturo had created. The text here, I'm walking down the street crying, I was washing dishes somewhere, I'm very anti-people, kind of, living in a cave fighting with God, and that was my contribution, t-shirts and accessories. Those are direct quotes out of the interviews. So Daryl and I went through a process of choosing quotes and then choosing images, then choosing which quotes would go with which image.
So Eric Lopez is a local artist, but one of the ways in particular is the use of actual buttons. I mean, a Ramones button is almost as recognizable as a Ramones shirt. Eric also came with a ton of incredible stories to talk to Ken and I about growing up in Mexico City and going to see the Ramones in Mexico City and talking about Ramones culture. Well, it's not even Ramones culture, but these culture, these groups, right? These communities that took up Ramones shirts without even really knowing the Ramones and what that looked like, and eventually queer community taking over this aesthetic of wearing pink Ramones t-shirts, even though they have no idea who the Ramones really are. Yeah, so Sybil Lam is a really incredible local artist, though. She did a mash of an Arturo, not an Arturo that actually exists or existed at any point. It was pieces of him from younger days and older days, and it's a composite of all these different photos in these pieces. Talk about Arturo as the fifth Ramone in that kind of way as well, right? And he certainly saw himself that way, just based on the back tattoo that he has, where he took out Tommy's name and put his own name in instead. So it's Artie, Dee Dee, Joey, and Johnny, which is, it's pretty clear. It's a strong message, right?
Okay, so this piece is by Julian Caleros. His piece plays off of the word verga, which has 3 different meanings. It means dick. So actually the first meaning is that you're really good at something. So he's alluding to the fact that Arturo was really good at what he did, really good at design, really good at art. But it also refers to the rumors that Arturo was gay, and so it's referring to Dick. Did he like Dick? Or he did like Dick. And the third reference is upon looking at the interviews and viewing some of the text of Arturo, did he wonder if he was a little unpleasant? Was he a bit of a dick? So he plays on the words in 3 different ways. The other thing about this piece, this through here, is Julian explained to me, alludes to the eagle that Arturo uses. And it's the state of Guadalajara in Mexico on the one side and New York State on the other. And both Julian and Arturo are from Guadalajara, which was also part of how Julian had a real hook in and an interest into Arturo and how he presented himself.
Okay. This one's fast.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, little girl, I wanna be your boyfriend. Sweet little girl, I wanna be your boyfriend. Do you love me, babe? What do you say? Do you love me, babe? What can I say? I wanna be your boyfriend. Hey little girl, I wanna be your boyfriend. Sweet little girl, I wanna be your boyfriend. What do you say?
You gotta make sure I know where it is.
Okay, you gotta
Just
guess.
physically.
Yeah, he's gonna stick his finger in front of your face. He did that to me, that's what I'll...